What's going on, guys? It's Friday. I'm back, and we're here for another 5-Minute Friday to close out the week. Now, I'm not gonna lie, going into this one, I'm a little bit tired here today. Been working some extra hours this week, a little bit more than I usually do, and working super hard amongst developments in our coaching program and the environment within that I'm super excited about. And also been working super hard on the opportunity that we are opening up next week to help members of you in this group 2x your opportunity pipeline in less than 2 hours a day with the workshop that we have opening up next week. So I'm super excited for those that choose to join me and take action on this opportunity next week that we're opening up and go all in with what we have available for them itself. More to come on that, but we're here today to talk about the topic in this 5-Minute Friday, which comes down to one thing, and that is vulnerability. Now, the reason I want to talk about vulnerability itself and the importance of this within your business, within your marketing, within your sales process as a whole is because this is something that I lacked early on in mine, and I missed out on a lot of opportunities because of it. And I realized that when I wasn't being vulnerable within my content, within my conversations, and within my business as a whole, I was being selfish. And I want to explain to you why that is and how maybe you might be doing the same thing and how you can change this starting today. What happened for me, and I know this happens for many of you as well, is we tried to early on create content that we think people will look up to us and say, man, I want to purchase from this person. And if we create content that's expressing doubt in our previous self, or that's expressing struggle in our life, or vulnerability in general, then they may look at us and say, man, is this person really qualified for me to purchase from? And we feel like, man, if we express ourselves in that way, we're not going to be seen as the qualified person to be chosen for someone to buy something through us or to buy our product or service itself. And we try to be someone almost that we're not, in a sense, to try to cover up experiences that we've had in our life or just not share them at all and act like they don't even exist. But I want to flip that on its head today, and I want to help you guys deploy this within your business and show you the power of being vulnerable itself. Not only just for the impact it will have on your audience and the results that will bring to your business, but also the fulfillment and enjoyment that will come from you doing this itself. And that's really what I realized in my journey that it did for me. And this is something that I've talked a lot on with my clients as well, and they've seen this come to life for them along with that. And this really comes down to being willing to be vulnerable itself, willingness to be vulnerable. If you aren't willing to be vulnerable, you're going to continue to try to create content that just gets results, to tell stories that you think your audience or people will really appreciate and want. But if we can just step back and ask ourselves, you know what are some experiences that I had early on in my life, early on in my journey that I'm embarrassed about? That I felt like, man, I don't ever want to talk about this again because I struggled with it or I failed doing this. Whatever those things are, that's what we should be talking about more, because what really allows people to connect to us within our marketing is vulnerability. This actually popped up recently in a coaching session that I had with a client of mine where I didn't even realize this about him before because he would never open up to me on it before this point. And he shared with me that one point in his journey, he was in over $20,000 in debt. And he ended up getting out of that debt by launching a previous online business that ended up making him upwards of $5K a month for a stretch of time that allowed him to pay off that debt, get into some profit with it, but then he ended up sinking and failing with that business, which led him to jumping to the next thing and now getting to where he is now with what he's doing on Facebook. And he never had ever shared that story before to his audience or even to me itself as a coach, because he even mentioned to me he was embarrassed by it. He felt like, you know what, if I share this, how does this tie into what I'm doing today? Won't this just make people think less of me for how I failed in the past? But the reality is, people will think more of you by you just simply being willing to share that with your audience itself. So you see, it's not so much about the failures or the bad days or the bad weeks that people will look at us and say, oh man, this guy isn't a good leader. But by you taking the time to be vulnerable and share those bad days, those bad weeks, those down experiences that you were embarrassed about, your audience is going to see this as inspiration. They're going to see you up there in the fact that you're not perfect, just like them. Because just like you guys, I'm not perfect. And if I were to sit up here and act like everything is always sunshine and rainbows, nothing ever goes wrong, even at the level my business is at now, I'd be lying because it's not the truth. Bad days happen to every single one of us. No different from me to you. No different from being at 0 to being at 50K a month. Bad days happen, bad experiences happen, but we learn from those bad experiences. And if we can be vulnerable in sharing those and sharing breakthroughs that we learn from those itself, we're really opening ourselves up to our audience in ways that we never have before. So what I'd like to encourage you guys here today that are watching this 5-Minute Friday, to not hesitate, to not wait with what we're talking about. Write down 1 to 3 things that maybe you would be uncomfortable or fear talking about to your audience. Maybe it's from a failure that you had in the past or an experience that you had in the past. Maybe you were afraid to public speak before and now you're doing your first live video. Putting yourself out there, showing people how nervous you used to once be when you went live and how uncomfortable it made you. And how, hey, you're even nervous right now going out and doing it, but you're doing it because you want to grow. That's being purely vulnerable, authentic, and honest within your content. It's going to earn a lot of respect, a lot of trust, a lot of goodwill, and it's going to create some conversation as well. So my challenge to you guys here to close out the week is to write down 1 to 3 things that you're embarrassed to talk about, or maybe you fear talking about. Things that maybe you've thought about before, but pushed away because you didn't want others to know about it. And to come out here to close out the week and into next week and pick one of those 3 things to either go live with or to write a post about, and vulnerably, honestly, and authentically express that story, that takeaway, that experience, that failure, whatever it may be. Share that with your audience and do it proudly. So with that said, that's a wrap for this 5-Minute Friday. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you all have a great weekend ahead.